local governments, so counties and cities here in California, often defeat their own economic development efforts. I think they do that sometimes without even realizing it, which is sad, and it's something that I wish we could fix. That I'm gonna try and fix some of that with this video, hopefully raising awareness. So how do they do that? How do local governments, especially in California, defeat their own economic development efforts? Well, they often do that with their decisions on land use regulation and permitting. So you'll have a city or a county, they'll have an economic development department. That department will be making a lot of effort to attract new businesses to the jurisdiction. And then at the same time, over in the building department, in the public works department, in the land use planning department, they're doing everything they can to make it as hard as possible to get anything built. And so that dynamic, those two things are in conflict, and that dynamic is important. And one of the main things that can make a jurisdiction either viable or not viable as a destination for businesses, how hard is it to select a site, buy a real estate parcel, and get it configured to suit the needs of your business. So before we talk about, well, what can you do about that? If you work in an economic development department, or you're a mayor or city council member or county board supervisor, or you're a land use regulator at a local agency and you care about this, what can you do? What can be done to fix this? So before we answer that question, I want to give a couple quick definitions. So what do I mean when I say economic development, and what do I mean when I say land use regulation? So economic development, that's the folks at your government agency that are trying to attract businesses to either relocate to your jurisdiction or trying to encourage the creation of new businesses. These are the folks that are worried about bringing jobs into the community. They want to revitalize neighborhoods. They want to increase the local tax base, increase the local tax revenue. So these are people that are interested in stimulating economic development in the community. Okay, when I say those efforts of those folks that are trying to accomplish those things are often defeated by the land use regulations, what do I mean by land use regulations? It's talking about zoning, design standards for land development, the hoops you make people jump through for use permits and building permits. So it's all that stuff. I've kind of bundled all that together, right? So land use regulations, land development standards, permitting requirements. So what can be done to prevent your land use regulations and land development standards, your permitting requirements, from defeating the efforts of your economic development folks? So the main thing you can do is to get your economic development folks involved in the decisions that your agency makes about those development standards, land use regulations, and permitting. So what do I mean by that? How can you get them involved? I'm going to give you 3 ways you can get your economic development folks involved in that other stuff that's really important. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is when your government agency is making decisions about land use regulations or land development standards, you want to get those folks at the table. So if you're thinking about how to change your general plan, or you're thinking about making tweaks to your zoning regulations, you need to have somebody from the economic development department at your agency sitting at the table with you, because they're going to be able to add some perspective on the impact that those decisions are going to have on their ability to stimulate economic activity. I'm not saying that they should be put in charge or that they have to have their way, but their opinion is important, and you want to have them at the table. So involve them when you're making those rules. Okay. The second thing you want to do is when your agency has to make decisions about individual projects or specific plans, so it's not the broader set of rules, but a more narrow set of rules. Could be part of a specific plan, could be part of a capital improvement district or a business improvement district, or even an individual project. Involve the folks in your economic development department. Talk to them. What's going to happen if we deny this project? What's going to happen if we form this business improvement district here? How is that going to impact the way you do your job and your efforts to attract businesses to the community? You need to have them there. Give them a chance to voice their opinion. Okay, and the third thing you want to do is you want to involve the economic development department in the permitting process. So use your economic development department as an asset for businesses or organizations that are trying to come in and do development in your jurisdiction. Oftentimes, I find that the economic development department is like totally detached from the land use regulation and permitting process. You know, it's like the economic development department is like coming up with YouTube banner ads or, posting on LinkedIn about what a great city they have, and then you've got somebody that's already made some level of commitment to bring their organization to the community, and they're over here, they're dying, right? They're dying in permit purgatory over here. So there's a fundamental disconnect there, right? And so you want to think about how can you involve your economic development department in that permitting and land use regulation process. How can they potentially be an advocate for people that are trying to bring businesses and organizations to your community? So ask your economic development department to assess the impact of any changes you make to your land use regulations, your land development standards, your permitting requirements, decisions you make about specific plans, business improvement districts, specific projects. Get their feedback, get them involved, and we'll talk some more in some other future videos about who else can help you design land use regulations and land development standards and permitting regulations that will encourage economic development, and how you might work with your economic development department to assess the costs and impacts in an empirical way of the land use regulations that you have. So we'll talk some more about that. It's a really important thing. One of the things that makes me proud to live in the California Central Valley is we still care about jobs and we still care about economic development, unlike some other parts of California. But even here in the Central Valley, I am sometimes frustrated when I'm trying to help businesses come into a particular community at the lack of cooperation that we get from the folks that enforce land use regulations, land development standards, and permitting. So don't be telling everybody on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter what a great place your city or county is to do business, and then be putting them in permit purgatory when they decide to make an actual commitment to bring some development to your jurisdiction. So involve your economic development department in those conversations.